Hi there, I thought I'd make a video on my latest little project, which is trying to master the art of playing block chords on the organ. Block chords was started by actually Milt Buckner. If you look him up on the YouTube, there's a series of 10 songs with him. Willie's Blues is one of them, and he was a master at locked hands block chord technique. Many people believe that George Shearing started it, but it wasn't George. He himself says he picked it up from Milt Buckner, but what he did was to change it around the voicings. So whereas Milt plays the blues using block chords, Shearing took the voicings from Glen Miller. Buckner was also an arranger, which is probably where the whole concept comes from, because he was probably arranging the four or five saxophones. So the basic idea of block chords is that from the melody note you build a chord down. It's usually, if you play in a major key, you would from the one note in the scale you would build a 6 chord down. You can also use a 7 chord, but that's usually used when you go into the 4 chord. So building down, it's 1, 6, 5, 3. If you're using locked hands, you will double the melody an octave below. There are several piano ones out there. So what George Shearing did was which is C6, D diminished, C6 in second position. That's an F6. That's G6, A diminished, B diminished, and C6. Now this can be turned around a whole lot of ways. You can use very many different voicings. It totally depends on the mood of the song more than anything. Looking at registrations, you will usually use a bright sound. Perhaps something like this. And what I've been working hard at is what Milt Buckner was good at, and Jimmy McGriff was a master at it as well on the organ, and that is playing the blues using block chords. Jimmy McGriff didn't voice up the way Jimmy Smith did. He had mellower voicings than the ones used by Jimmy Smith. And what Jimmy McGriff will often do is he will drop the whole chord down to the lower manual, which has the bass sound. Normal is to use C2 or C3 chorus, and you will have the Leslie on full speed to get a nice whirly type of sound. So what I've done is try to work out my own voicings for playing a bluesy type of block chord. If you go into this, be prepared to spend 6 months to a year. Stay in one key initially until you worked it out, because you are going to hit a lot of obstacles. It'll be unused. Your hands won't be used to it. So if we start looking at the block chords, traditional block chords, I'll talk about Jimmy Smith's block chord later, because his squabble technique is, he probably got it from Wild Bill Davis. Now Wild Bill Davis had enormous hands, so he was actually playing locked hands technique with 5-note chordings, but he actually used only one hand to do it. And he was playing left hand bass double with a foot at the same time. Massive sound, usually with all the drawbars out. So the options you have, if you have huge hands and a lot of time, you can actually work out the whole locked hands concept in one hand, if your hands can take it. There are some effects that can be done. Oscar Peterson uses it, where by using the left hand as well, you can do so if you want to play really fancy stuff using locked hands, then you should remember that the melody bearer, as far as I'm concerned, is not the pinky, it's the left hand. So if you can mess up slightly in the right hand, as long as the left hand is playing a clear melody line, the melody line will punch through. This is especially true for faster tempos. In that phrase, I'm actually slurring. I could practice more, be more precise in the right hand, but it still goes through. If you get the idea behind that. If you're going to play bass, then the pinky becomes more important and has to carry the melody line. This is one I'm constantly struggling to get it right. And one problem with block chords, there are so many solutions that you can get lost in trying to find the best one while you're playing. You have to actually work it out beforehand so that you do not hesitate when you execute it. A phrase like can be done like this. If the tempo is quicker or even, where the last sequence to reduce the movement from, which can be hard at a fast tempo. So if there's a fast tempo, get the top notes right and try to work it out as smoothly as you can. The first part can be played either as an E flat diminished chord going to a C6, one solution. Another solution, which is an interesting one, is where you build a 6 chord from the top note, but you say to yourself, this is the third of a 6th chord. So in this case it's a B6, and you have a very nice dissonance in the bottom with the 5th, the 6th, the 1 and the 3rd, and then you just move it. Excuse me. This voicing can actually be used a lot. It throws in some very nice tension, but it's a bit cumbersome, but depending on where you are. This is a very it's used in a big band arrangement. I've forgotten which one, but both Jimmy Smith and Jimmy McGriff uses, which is basically it's a rhythmic thing. And it's just a matter of actually daring to do it. There's another figure that's often used, which is basically it's the bassy ending, but it can be used. So my solution for the blues scale, I will voice it C6, that's a B6, that's a C7, then either an F diminished or that's an F sharp 6. I often use the F sharp 6 coming down and the F diminished going up. This one can be seen as a C minor 7 or an E6 if you like. Going up. So that's an E diminished, C6, F6, F sharp diminished, C7, C6. You can alter between the C6 and the B6. You can always throw in the minor feel. That one is used quite often by Oscar Peterson uses it a lot. So that's an E flat diminished, quick on the C6, D diminished, C6. And Oscar will actually throw in the left hand if he's got a bass player and do. And then he will do. So once again, your building blocks are C6, E6, F6, C7, then either F sharp diminished or F sharp 6, F6, and here you can play C minor 6 or C major 6. Then there are quite a few phrases to be played that are nice. Here's a nice one that Milt Buckner uses a lot in one of his blueses. He will actually add a minor second in the bottom. Gives a very nice edgy flavor. If you want to be a little mean. If you can, remember to try to play behind the beat. Be a saxophone section, bassy saxophone section was famous to. If you listen to April in Paris, they're almost there was 16th note behind the beat, but everybody's behind the beat, so it actually works out. Last part would be Jimmy Smith's Squabble, and remember the key to this whole thing is practice it until it's automatic. It won't flow otherwise. And if you're playing bass on your own, then you will have to practice so it's 5-note two-hand, 6-note two-hand. And finally, I've listened quite a lot to the Jimmy Smith records, and I've heard lots of theories on how he does his squabble. Some say it's 1-5-6. But the one that in my ears sounds the closest is actually using 2/3. So it's a third up from the bottom note and a third down from the top note, and that will come across as this. So on and so forth. Again, it's C6. Here you're following the Ionian. You can play it with a 7, then it would be B, D, G, B. And probably what he did was he heard Milt Buckner or Wild Bill Davis play. And he left out the middle note, change around his sound a bit. On the F chord, you just move down a half step and you get the 7. He probably rolls the chord. That gives it actually a sort of a wah-wah effect. Okay, that was a video on block chords where I am at now. Last thing, you can also play block chords in a 1-3 setting. Quite nice, a bit gospel-y.